The moment we have feared for years may finally be here. After all the miracles, the hope, the unforgettable speeches, and the journey that changed so many lives, The Chosen Season 6 is now preparing to show the darkest and most emotional chapter of Jesus' story. And honestly, after watching the first crucifixion trailer, I truly do not think any of us are emotionally ready for what is coming. Because this trailer does not feel like a normal teaser anymore. It feels like the beginning of the end. Every scene feels heavier. Every word sounds more painful. And for the first time in this series, it genuinely feels like danger is everywhere. The smiles are disappearing. The fear inside the disciples is growing. And Jesus himself looks like he is already carrying the weight of what is about to happen. But what exactly did the trailer reveal? Which heartbreaking moments are hidden inside these scenes? And why are fans already saying that Season 6 could become the most powerful season of The Chosen so far? Let's look at every detail together. The trailer begins with an atmosphere that immediately feels different from previous seasons. Usually, even during emotional moments, The Chosen always carried a feeling of hope and warmth. But here, everything feels colder, darker, and much more intense. From the very first seconds, you can feel that Jerusalem is no longer safe for Jesus or his followers. The fear in the city has become impossible to ignore. And honestly, I think the trailer does an incredible job of making us feel this tension without even needing long dialogue scenes. One of the first things that stood out to me was the expression on Jesus' face throughout the trailer. Jonathan Rumi once again looks absolutely incredible in this role. But this time, there is something very different in the way he portrays Jesus. You can see exhaustion in his eyes. You can see sadness. And at the same time, you can also see complete acceptance of what is coming. That is honestly what makes this trailer so emotional. Jesus already knows the pain that awaits him. Yet he continues walking forward calmly. And I truly believe Jonathan's performance in Season 6 could become the strongest performance we have ever seen from him in this series. As the trailer continues, we begin to see quick moments showing growing panic among the disciples. And honestly, this may become one of the most heartbreaking parts of Season 6. Because for years, we have watched these followers slowly build an unbreakable connection with Jesus. We watched them laugh together, travel together, and witness miracle after miracle together. But now, for the first time, we are about to see that family begin to fall apart under fear and pressure. One moment that especially stood out to me was the look of confusion and helplessness on the disciples' faces. It feels like they know something terrible is happening, but they still cannot fully understand why Jesus is allowing it to happen. And that confusion is exactly what will make these scenes so painful for viewers. Because we already know where this story leads. Of course, one of the biggest focuses of the trailer is Judas. And honestly, I already have a feeling that Season 6 will completely destroy us emotionally when it comes to his storyline. The trailer gives us several small but extremely powerful glimpses of Judas looking terrified, anxious, and emotionally broken. And what makes his story so tragic is that deep down, Judas may have never expected things to go this far. The trailer seems to show him slowly realizing that the consequences of his betrayal cannot be stopped anymore. And I honestly think The Chosen is going to portray Judas in a much more emotional and human way than many people expect. Instead of showing him as simply evil, the series seems ready to show the guilt, fear, and regret completely consuming him from the inside. And I believe those scenes are going to be incredibly difficult to watch. Another major detail hidden inside the trailer is the growing political pressure surrounding Jesus. We see brief moments of religious leaders looking furious and determined. And honestly, you can feel that they are no longer trying to silence Jesus quietly anymore. At this point, they want him gone completely. The tension between Jesus and the authorities has been building since the very beginning of the series, but Season 6 looks like the moment where everything finally explodes. The trailer constantly creates the feeling that Jesus is being surrounded from every direction. Everywhere he turns, there are people watching him, judging him, plotting against him. And what makes it even more emotional is the fact that Jesus remains calm through all of it. Even while everyone around him is filled with anger, fear, and violence, he still carries himself with peace. Honestly, that contrast may become one of the most powerful elements of this season. One scene in the trailer especially gave me chills. we see Jesus standing silently while chaos grows around him. And for a brief moment, it almost feels like time itself slows down. Nobody fully understands him in that moment. The disciples are afraid. The crowds are divided. The leaders are furious. And yet Jesus stands there completely aware of the sacrifice he is about to make. Honestly, scenes like this are why The Chosen has connected so deeply with audiences around the world. The show does not simply tell biblical events. It makes you emotionally feel them. And Season 6 already looks like it will take that emotional storytelling to an entirely different level. The trailer also hints heavily at Peter's emotional breakdown. And honestly, I am not ready for those scenes at all. Peter has always been one of the most passionate and loyal disciples in the series. He always wants to protect Jesus, no matter what happens. But Season 6 will finally force him into a situation where fear completely takes control of him. And if the trailer is any indication, his denial storyline is going to be absolutely heartbreaking. You can already see guilt beginning to build inside him. And knowing what is coming makes every small moment feel even more painful. I truly think viewers are going to cry during Peter's scenes this season. At the same time, the trailer reminds us that this story is not only about suffering. It is also about sacrifice, love, and fulfillment. Even though the atmosphere feels dark and tragic, there is still something powerful underneath all of it. Jesus continues moving forward because he knows his mission is bigger than the pain waiting for him. And honestly, I think that emotional balance is exactly why this trailer feels so unforgettable. It is heartbreaking, but at the same time, it feels meaningful and deeply powerful. And this is only the beginning. Because if the trailer already feels this emotional, I honestly cannot imagine how intense the full season will be once we finally witness the trials, the betrayals, the crucifixion, and the devastating reactions from everyone around Jesus. The Chosen season May 6th truly become the most emotional chapter this series has ever given us. As the trailer moves forward, the emotional weight becomes even heavier because we finally begin to see the moments leading directly toward Jesus' arrest. And honestly, this part of the trailer completely changes the atmosphere of the entire season. Up until now, even during dangerous situations, there was always a feeling that somehow Jesus would still remain untouchable. But Season 6 removes that feeling entirely. For the first time, it truly feels like the world around him is closing in. Every conversation feels tense. Every look between the disciples feels filled with fear. And the trailer makes it very clear that nobody is emotionally prepared for what is about to happen. One of the most powerful things about the trailer is how quiet many of the scenes feel. Instead of relying on fast action or loud moments, the trailer uses silence and emotion to create tension. And honestly, I think that makes everything even more painful. You can almost feel the fear growing inside every character without them even needing to say much. One scene that especially stood out to me was the growing loneliness around Jesus. Even though he is still surrounded by his followers, there is a feeling that he is beginning to carry this burden completely alone. Jonathan Rumy's facial expressions in the trailer are honestly unbelievable. There are moments where Jesus barely says anything, yet you can still feel the emotional pain inside him. And I truly believe this season is going to show a side of Jesus that we have never fully experienced before in The Chosen. We have seen him as a teacher, a healer, a leader, and a source of hope. But now we are about to see him walk directly toward unimaginable suffering while fully understanding every painful step ahead of him. And honestly, that realization alone makes this trailer incredibly difficult to watch emotionally. The trailer also gives us several emotional glimpses of the Last Supper. And honestly, I already know these scenes are going to completely break viewers. Because the disciples still sit together like a family, but this time there is sadness underneath every moment. There is tension in the room. There are unspoken fears. And Jesus himself seems emotionally heavier than ever before. One detail I noticed is how carefully the trailer focuses on the reactions of the disciples during these scenes. Some look confused. Some look worried. And others look completely lost. It feels like they know change is coming, but they still cannot understand how devastating that change will actually be. And honestly, I think this emotional confusion is what will make Season 6 feel so real and human. Of course, one of the biggest moments hinted at in the trailer is Judas's betrayal. And honestly, the way The Chosen is building this storyline feels incredibly tragic. The trailer does not portray Judas as calm or confident. Instead, he looks emotionally shattered. There is fear in his eyes during almost every scene. And I honestly think the series wants viewers to understand how guilt slowly destroys him from the inside. One brief moment in the trailer especially caught my attention because Judas almost looks like he wants to stop everything after realizing what he has done. But by then, the situation is already moving too fast. And honestly, that helplessness may become one of the saddest parts of the entire season. Watching someone realize they cannot undo their mistake anymore is always painful. But in this story, the emotional consequences are even greater because we know how history unfolds afterward. Another thing that makes the trailer so powerful is the growing fear among the disciples after the betrayal begins. We see quick moments where confusion spreads rapidly. Some disciples look angry, others look terrified, and some seem completely frozen in shock. And honestly, I think Season 6 will focus heavily on how emotionally broken the followers become once Jesus is taken away. Because until now, they always believed Jesus would somehow change everything around them. But now they are about to face the terrifying possibility that they may lose him forever. And I honestly cannot imagine how emotional those scenes will become once the full episodes release. The trailer also strongly hints at the Garden of Gethsemane scenes, and honestly, these moments may become some of the most unforgettable scenes in the entire series. The atmosphere during these scenes feels incredibly heavy. Jesus appears emotionally exhausted while praying alone. And the sadness in these moments is almost impossible to ignore. What makes this even more heartbreaking is knowing that Jesus already understands exactly what is coming next. He knows the betrayal is close. He knows the suffering is unavoidable. Yet he still chooses to continue forward. And honestly, I think that level of emotional strength is what will make viewers deeply emotional during these scenes. At the same time, the trailer seems to focus heavily on fear spreading through Jerusalem itself. Crowds appear restless. The religious leaders look increasingly desperate. Roman soldiers seem more aggressive than before. And honestly, the entire city feels like it is preparing for something terrible to happen. The Chosen has always done an incredible job of making its world feel alive and realistic, but Season 6 looks even more immersive and intense than previous seasons. Every location in the trailer feels emotionally heavy. Even simple conversations feel filled with hidden danger. And honestly, that constant tension may be one of the reasons why this season already feels so different from everything that came before it. One moment that gave me chills was seeing how calm Jesus remains while everyone around him slowly falls apart emotionally. The disciples panic. Judas collapses under guilt. The authorities grow more violent. The crowds become unpredictable. But Jesus continues walking forward with complete peace. And honestly, that contrast is what makes his character feel so powerful throughout the trailer. Even while facing betrayal, suffering, and death, he still thinks about others more than himself. And I truly believe viewers are going to feel emotionally overwhelmed watching Jonathan portray these moments. The trailer also hints that Pilate's storyline may become much more important than many fans expected. We briefly see moments where Pilate appears deeply conflicted and uncomfortable with the situation unfolding around him. And honestly, I think Season 6 is going to explore his internal struggle in a very emotional way. Because even though Pilate holds political power, the trailer makes it feel like he is trapped by the pressure surrounding him. He seems aware that Jesus is different from the accusations being made against him. Yet at the same time, fear of political consequences may slowly force him into decisions he does not truly want to make. And honestly, that moral conflict could make his scenes incredibly intense. But perhaps the most heartbreaking thing about the trailer is the feeling that everyone is running out of time. Every scene feels like a countdown towards something devastating. The disciples are trying to hold on to hope. Jesus is preparing himself spiritually. Judas is collapsing emotionally. And the authorities are moving quickly to make sure there is no escape. The closer the trailer gets to its final moments, the more unbearable the emotional tension becomes. And honestly, I think that is exactly why fans are already calling this trailer one of the most emotional previews The Chosen has ever released. As the trailer reaches its second half, the emotional intensity rises to an entirely different level because we finally begin to see the first glimpses of Jesus standing before the religious authorities. And honestly, these moments already feel absolutely heartbreaking. The atmosphere during these scenes feels cold, hostile, and deeply unfair. After spending so many seasons watching Jesus heal people, guide the lost, and change countless lives, seeing him treated like a criminal feels almost impossible to process emotionally. And I truly think this is exactly what the trailer wants viewers to feel. It wants us to experience the growing pain, injustice, and emotional helplessness surrounding these final moments of Jesus' journey. One thing that immediately stood out to me was how calm Jesus remains even while surrounded by hatred and accusations. Jonathan Rumy's performance in these scenes already looks incredibly powerful because he portrays Jesus with a quiet strength that makes every moment feel even more emotional. Instead of reacting with anger or fear, Jesus seems completely aware that this suffering is part of something much bigger. And honestly, I think viewers are going to be deeply moved watching these scenes unfold. The trailer gives us brief but extremely intense glimpses of Jesus being questioned by Caiaphas and the council. And honestly, you can immediately feel the desperation of the religious leaders. They are no longer trying to debate Jesus or challenge his teachings peacefully. At this point, they seem completely determined to destroy him. The anger on their faces throughout the trailer is honestly terrifying. And what makes these moments even more emotional is the fact that Jesus continues responding with calmness and dignity, no matter how aggressively he is treated. One brief scene especially caught my attention because Jesus appears completely silent while chaos erupts around him. And honestly, that silence feels more powerful than any speech could possibly be. It almost feels like everyone else is losing control emotionally while Jesus alone remains spiritually unshaken. At the same time, the trailer continues showing the emotional collapse of the disciples. And honestly, I think this may become one of the hardest parts of Season 6 for viewers to watch. Because until now, the disciples always believed they would stand beside Jesus no matter what happened. But once fear truly enters the situation, everything begins changing rapidly. The trailer hints heavily at Peter's denial storyline, and honestly, I already know these scenes are going to completely destroy audiences emotionally. Peter has always been portrayed as passionate, loyal, and fearless. But now we are finally reaching the moment where fear overwhelms him completely. One quick shot in the trailer shows Peter looking absolutely devastated, and you can already feel the guilt beginning to consume him. And honestly, I think Jonathan Rumi and the actor playing Peter are going to deliver some of the strongest emotional performances in the entire series during these scenes.